I was working on a train platform. I used to do train dispatch. One night, I was just about to finish shift when I got into a chat with some male staff. We were teasing each other about the station being haunted, swapping ghost stories, and drinking coffee. A gentleman was standing on the platform, just staring out at the line. I mentioned to my friend that he was acting a little odd. Maybe one of them should approach and just check he was doing okay. It was agreed that I would go, but they would be just slightly behind me. People tend to open up to a woman more. I approached, just said, "Are you all right?" The man smiled and said, "Yeah, fine. Missed my train and need to think of an excuse for the wife." I nodded and came away, but something didn't sit right with me. The way he looked at me was odd. The swap time arrived, and normally I would head off in an expletive-filled blaze of glory, mainly directed at my male friends who returned the favor. It was a rite of passage. If you didn't get told to piss off home, you were unpopular. This time I approached them and said, "I know it's stupid, but would you mind walking me to the bus stop?" He weirded me out a bit. A couple of the lads, who knew I am not prone to fits of fancy, agreed and walked me to the bus stop. One leaned into me and whispered, "Sir, he's coming up to the stop." I decided to let the first bus go. My friends agreed. The man stood a few feet behind us and smiled at me in a really odd way. He kept raising an eyebrow and muttering to himself. One of my friends whispered he didn't like this, and said he would take me to my door. I nodded, grateful, as this guy was becoming incredibly creepy. My male friend wrapped an arm around me and did the heavy boyfriend routine. This normally kept unwanted attention away from the ladies. The guy didn't seem to care, he just kept staring at me. Other passengers noticed this, and mutters started about, "Keep that weird bastard away from her." My bus arrived, and I moved to board. The guy did the same, then my friend announced, "Tell YA what, come to mine instead, babe. I live alone, no parents to interrupt." I nodded agreeing, "Good thinking, babes." I took a few steps towards him, away from the bus. The odd man did the same thing. He was definitely following me. I looked at my friend. By now I was terrified. We walked, with his arm wrapped around me, away from the bus and towards the nearest pub. My friend was obviously in deep thought. I wondered what he was thinking about. We turned a corner, and suddenly my friend pulled me into the middle of the road shouting, "Taxi!" A cab pulled up. He bundled me into it and instructed, "Take her wherever she wants. Lock the doors and windows and under no circumstances open them. Here's £20, keep the change." "Sir, I'm calling your mum. Don't get out the cab until someone is on your doorstep." The cabbie nodded and locked the doors. He took the money and drove me home. Whilst we drove, I explained what had happened. He became very serious and told me that 3 women had been attacked in the area in the last 3 weeks. He got me home, and my brother met me on the doorstep. I can never thank my friend enough for what he did, and my brother picked me up on his motorbike every night after that.
A true story which will send a chill down your spine. A deadly encounter. Ranjit Sen, driver, 47, was driving his new Alto, which he bought from Sudipto Chatterjee in Jalpaiguri. He was coming home from Kalimpong after the trip to the reception party alone. There was no one with him in the car, and it made him a little uncomfortable. It was raining heavily and the road was deserted. No one was on the road, not even a single vehicle was plying. The air-looking Savok forest that night was looking dreadful. He was in a rush as it was very late and he had a trip the next day. He was extremely tensed. His days were not going good as his new car have met with some small accidents which were really costing him. Even the accidents were mysterious and spooky. His car would automatically sometimes steer off the road and sometimes the brakes wouldn't apply. His drivers wouldn't be able to explain the incident, but all the drivers said one thing in common, that his car, Alto, was haunted. They told him that they always felt someone was in the car whenever it was night and when they were all alone. Most of the incidents would happen at night and they felt that it was something in the car which controlled it at night. Mr. Ranjit would laugh at their claim and would rebut and rebuff them after listening to their claim. But all his drivers would insist on doing puja, worship ritual, in the car, but he never paid any heed to what they said. It was already 1 a.m. when he crossed Savok's Mandir. Everything was going good when suddenly he saw something really odd on the side of the road. He was shocked and couldn't understand anything. A lady in her mid-50s, naked, holding a thali with her hand, was going towards the temple. He swiftly passed her and didn't have the courage to turn back and look at her. He couldn't understand anything and kept driving. He was horrified. After a little time, when he was able to stable his mind, he thought that the lady must be practicing black magic. She must be a Dayan, a witch or vengeful female spirit in Indian culture. The rain was pouring over heavily and the night looked gloomy. He wanted to reach his home as fast as he could, as he was extremely scared by the horrific incident. It was exactly 1:15 when he felt something had woken up in the car. Although he couldn't see it, but he could feel it. At first, he thought he was feeling like that because of the dreadful incident which occurred just a few minutes before, but after he heard a woman's shrill cry from the back seat, he was certain that someone was in the car. He was not able to think and kept driving. He started chanting Hanuman Chalisa, but still the horrible cry sound kept increasing. He finally looked at the front mirror and saw a woman, wearing a sari, blood all over her body, was looking at him. He was dreaded and steered the car off the road, eventually running into a tree. He fainted at the spot. The next morning, he found himself in a hospital. He had sustained minor injuries, but the mental scar was permanently carved by the horrific incident last night. He immediately, with his relatives, went to Jalpaiguri to meet Sudipto Chatterjee, the owner of the haunted car. They reached at Mr. Sudipto's house and apprised him of all what had happened last night. Ranjit asked some questions to Mr. Sudipto. Mr. Ranjit said, "Has anything happened in your car, murder or something?" Mr. Sudipto said, "Are you mad? Are you accusing me of something?" Mr. Ranjit said, "No, last night I saw a lady. She was wearing a blue color sari." Mr. Ranjit told him about the details of the woman, how she looked, her age and everything about her. Mr. Sudipto asked, "Are you sure what you saw is true?" Mr. Ranjit answered yes. Mr. Sudipto was shocked and started crying. Mr. Sudipto quietly said, "I think you saw my wife. Last year she met with an accident in that car."
If you enjoyed this, please like, share and subscribe. More to come.